that's sitting back there hiding from us, the telecommunications staff, part of the Independence Light and Power, for helping to coordinate with our company that did our audio and the company that did our visual in order for us to have tonight's council meeting broadcast so more people will be able to see it. And I have been told we need to talk louder, or I do, so John's supposed to give me a thumbs up or down if I'm not talking loud enough, right? I need to be louder, seriously?
I can't even hear you over here.
Oh, come on. You want to borrow one of my hearing aids? Because I'm coming in loud in my ears. Okay. I will ask for a roll call.
Vaughn.
Here.
Kurtz.
Here.
Hayward.
Here.
Hill.
Yes.
Sharp.
Here.
O'Loughlin.
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Thank you. Boy, that was, for me now, that was loud. Is that not loud for everybody else?
Maybe you gotta turn your hearing aids down.
I don't think I can get them down any lower, to tell you the truth. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Scharf,
Second.
second by Hill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. We have nobody signed in for public comment, so I will go on to requiring a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the following: the minutes of the September 10th, 2018 regular meeting, city financials for the month of July, Hardick Drug Company Incorporated Class E liquor license, November 12th, 2018 through November 13th, 2019, Larry's Class B native wine permit, October 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2019.
So moved.
Motion by Scharf.
Second.
Second by O'Loughlin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Mayor,
Yeah.
I have a question. Why are we approving July and not August on the city financials?
We haven't done approval for July yet, so we are getting it on the agenda now.
Did we already do August?
Nope, we have August on the next one also.
Okay. Next on the agenda is approval of claims for payment.
So moved.
Motion by Hill,
Second.
second by Kurtz. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next, under petitions from the public, we have our annual update from Spear Financial. Maggie, you want to introduce you to everybody? I don't know if you know them all.
Great, thank you. I'm Maggie Berger, everyone with Spear Financial. Also want to introduce my colleague, John Murphy. John is new in our office. He started with us in January of this year, and so he's been coming out and participating in meetings, and we'll be coming out and seeing you all in the future, as well as Larry and myself as time goes on here. So. We've been having great success with John, and he's really getting involved. And again, right now is just a time for him to get out and meet some of the clients that we have. So I have brought with me tonight your annual TIF update. And again, this is more of a debt report and a TIF update. So if you would like, I'll very quickly go through this with you and remind you of certain things that we're looking for. The red pages outline your general obligation debt that is outstanding. This means any general obligation debt that can be paid with property taxes. We pay some debt with different sources of revenue other than property taxes as well. The 2009 bond issue, it was pointed out before the meeting, that does pay off in 2020. And so you can see when the final maturity dates are based on the end of the principal payments, end of the principal and interest. We also give you the day that they were issued. And the TIC, I remind you at the very top in that box, is the true interest rate. So again, that 3.68 disappears in next fiscal year. And then all of a sudden you're down to the 2.71. And we get lower and lower because interest rates continue to get lower and lower as you issue debt. We do then go on for 2 pages, and on the second page, we have listed your 2016 as well as your 2018. On the 2018 debt, in year 2025, so there's a line drawn after about halfway down there on $260,000. That is your optional redemption date. That is the day that the bonds become callable, and only callable at your option, meaning that you can call the bonds in whole or in part after that day. You could refinance them if there was a lower interest rate available at that time, or you can just continue and pay the bonds as they are and as they stand till their maturity, or call them at any time after that date as well. You do show total principal and interest. And then the items that you buy down your debt with, you use some TIF revenue. In the yellow column, you use some local option sales tax revenue from a prior issue, as well as the 2018 issue has a small amount of local option sales tax. And then we also use some sewer revenue. We've drawn an arrow to about $551,000 of debt service, and that is the net amount of debt service that needs to be levied in your property taxes. That amount is slightly lower than it was last year, and so the city will work with you as you budget yet this fall and early into the spring to get that amount established in your debt service levy for property taxes.
Maggie, is the fact we're using the revenue, sewer revenue, is that because we refinance those bonds at a lower rate?
No, so those bonds that we refinanced are paid fully with sewer revenue, and we'll get to that on the next page. These are parts of general obligation bonds that the city designated at the time that they did those bond issues in the past. They were going to pay part of that with sewer. So it may have been that there was $300,000 of a street project that they said, oh, they were going to replace some sewer main, and they said, we want to make sure and pay that portion with sewer, and that's where we're bringing that sewer revenue in for. Great question. So going on to the next page, that is the orange page, and that is where the sewer revenue debt is that Mr. Hill was talking about. And so this was a refinance down to a lower interest rate. This interest rate was about 4.65%. We were able to lower that down to a 3.47% this winter when we went ahead and did that in February. You've got about 3 years of payments until you can pay those off in full, in part, or pay early on them, but you have a remaining amount of about $1,865,000 because you did make a principal payment in June on those. So from the day that we issued till now, and those are paid 100% with sewer revenue per the bond resolution. We flip to our purple pages, and this is where we talk about any rebates that are outstanding. We have a couple of older rebates, Tyson Pet Products, that is still outstanding, and that is not annually appropriated. The remaining amount of your rebates are annual appropriations, and you know that as in November you take action to annually appropriate, going out and asking for those rebates. And a rebate is nothing more than signing an agreement with a developer that they're going to develop a piece of property or build something that's going to add to the increment of your TIF district, and you are going to rebate them back a portion of the taxes. And you remember, when you are gathering TIF, you are getting your cities, your counties, and part of your school's TIF to go ahead and rebate them back. So we've got three new ones, the Independence Investments LLC. We also have, we had a new one for Wapsie Valley back in 2016. We've got a couple new housing ones for Steve Gee. So we've got all of those listed here. I remind you also, your housing rebates do have low to moderate income set aside. And the reason for that is the state of Iowa requires that if you're going to give a rebate or an incentive to a housing project that is at market rates, meaning the housing is not a low to moderate income rate housing, that you must do low to moderate income set aside. So what you'll do is you'll collect all of the increment that you can, and you're going to be able to rebate back to the developer 60.79% of that increment, and then you have to keep 39.2% to 1% for yourself. And for those projects, then that's money that can be spent on low to moderate income projects. We've worked with the city in the past. I know city has worked with Intercog and other groups to set up what are different funding mechanisms that are eligible to have that LMI spent on them. So this does go on for 3 pages, and we kind of break that all down then amongst the annual appropriation and the non-annual. The next pages are our yellow pages, and this is where we talk about what part of the debt is payable from TIF receipts. And so right here, we show that part of the 2009, the 16, and the 17 debt is payable from TIF receipts. We've broken those all down for you on a principal and an interest basis. We then transfer that to the general obligation debt service. We bring in those rebate amounts, and at the very far right column, we've got our total amount that needs to be asked for in TIF. And so what we're doing is saying, this is the debt that needs to be paid with TIF. These are the rebates that need to be paid for TIF. And you do have a forgivable loan that was entered into out there in 2017, and that will get paid with TIF. So we do have those in front of you so that, again, they're in the arrow drawn is $667,000. That is what is going to be asked for in TIF when you are doing your certifications in November of this year ahead of that December deadline. Just a couple more pages. We've got your green pages. This talks about your debt capacity. We're going to look at column number 2 and read straight down the column. This is fiscal year 19. You have an actual property valuation here in the City of Independence of $349 million. That, you can see, has increased by 5.76% over last year. It's a very large increase for you. We've averaged here about 1.5% to 2%, so we did take that back down to a 2.5 because the last couple of years we've seen some significant growth in the community. That gives you a statutory debt limit or a debt legal debt margin of $17,460,000. Outstanding, you have $10,525,000 of GO bonds. You have some non-annually appropriated rebates. Then we have those annually appropriated rebates. We're going to pay principal back this year of $1,260,000. Also make payments on those rebates. And this leaves you with a remaining debt capacity of $8,183,000, or about 46%. This number has improved, even though you have a new debt issuance out there. This number actually has improved over the last couple of years. And again, partially due to your valuation and partially due to paying some debt off prior that was outstanding and getting yourself into that $10 million range from where you were prior.
One comment here. This is why we do the TIF, to work on increasing the valuation so that we have more to tax and we don't
Absolutely.
have to raise individuals.
Correct. Giving incentives in the way of TIF is a way that a lot of communities use to increase the valuation, increase, all kinds of different revenue sources within the city. So this, I will remind you, is your 100% valuation. This is not your taxable. This is not what you tax on. That is that is after all of the rollbacks. So this is figured on your 100% valuation. This does go on for 2 pages, and we've done the estimate of the growth again at 2.5%, just to kind of show you that by the time you get to the end of page 2, you don't have much debt outstanding if you do nothing else, and where your valuation really could be there potentially in the future. And then the last pages is really where we talk about the TIF increment itself. And that increment is what is growing above the base value when the base value was originally set. We again look at column number 2 and we read straight down with fiscal year 19. Any valuation that has grown in commercial is about $24 million in increment. So over the base value, you've had $24 million in incremental growth in commercial, about $7 million, 6.997 in industrial. We don't have any personal property or ag value in the county or in the city limits or in your TIF district. And then we've got $32 million of residential growth. We do take the rollback on that number. We also have about $1.6 million in multi-residential. I remind you that the multi-residential rollback continues to get steeper and steeper, meaning they're taking more in rollback each year until that rollback and the residential rollback will merge. We don't know what level that is at this point in time, but we think somewhere between 55 and probably 65% is where that's going to merge at. This produces $47,357,000 of valuation in the TIF district. at the TIF tax rate of $32 a thousand, that is TIF revenue available of $1,548,000. You're using about $585,000 on GO obligations or general obligations. You're also using $100,000 on rebates, and you also have a small loan that is a forgivable loan that is out there, as well as you have to collect for low to moderate income set aside in the future on those rebates. With all of that said, we have these unclaimed TIF dollars of $855,000. I'm not telling you to go out and grab those. The valuation that makes up those dollars is valuation that you're not using now. With the appropriate amount of growth, which we've estimated in the past for the city, you've been able to increase your askings for TIF without harming anybody's budgets, without harming your budget, school districts, county, things like that. So it is appropriate to look at asking for more TIF dollars when we know that there's a sizable amount of growth out there to do so. You also have to have the obligations to be able to ask for additional TIF dollars. So at this point in time, the dollars that you do not claim, the valuation that makes those up rolls back into the city, the county, and the school district's budget. That's good for all of you. It's good for all of your other public agencies here, because what that does is that allows them to experience growth each and every year without you taking all of the valuation that would be available to you. You did grow in the TIF district by 12.84%. Honestly, that is attributable probably to the majority of rebate agreements that you have outstanding. Most of those rebate agreements are definitely for incentives in the TIF district, and those are ones that the growth has really occurred in the last couple of years. So we do knock that growth rate back down again for a conservative number to about 2.5%, and that goes on for a couple pages as well to show the obligations that you have outstanding. So a lot of information, but I know you, most of you have been through this before. We've talked a lot about your debt outstanding, and so if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of them.
You do represent a lot of different cities.
We do.
How do we stand as far as
Yeah.
our debt?
Yeah, so from the debt capacity standpoint, you have about 46% of your capacity remaining, meaning you're using about 54%. The majority of cities that are your size are probably around that 40 to 50% mark of remaining debt capacity. So you're a little bit in that same area. You have about 54% remaining, or you're using about 54%. And I would say they're between about 40, 45, 50%. So you're right in that same area with the majority of cities that are around your size. Now, communities that are smaller than you likely have a larger amount of debt outstanding for their capacity. And that's just because, again, they have less valuation. So it makes a little bit more of a difference when you only have $100 million of value versus $349 million of value. So from a TIF asking standpoint, you have a fair amount of rebate agreements, but they're all rebate agreements that have proven that the growth is there to support the rebate agreements. And the one thing you have to remember, rebates are a safe way to incentivize, and the reason is the developer has to go out and do something and add value to their property and increase their property taxes before you have to do anything. You only rebate back on the increase of those property taxes. So if nothing comes to fruition, you technically aren't out any money because you are only going to do that after they have certified and said, yes, we've paid these new dollars in taxes because we've built this growth or we've developed and built more increment for you. So, all right.
Are there any other questions for anybody?
Thank you very much for having us.
You always have a great presentation.
Thank you. And I know that in November, probably on your agenda, you will go ahead and get all your certifications done and your annual reports. And this is the information that you need to do that. So that's why we wanted to get out in front of you before that, all right? Have a very good evening, everybody.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Maggie.
much. Next on the agenda is Officer Lau, if you would come forward.
Well, since last time I was here to meet with you guys, obviously we've experienced some flooding, now twice now, but not nearly as bad the first time. Continuing to work with junk properties and junk vehicles. We still have a few of those around town that I'm currently working on. Happy to report that the leaning barn that was on just off of 150 on Fifth Avenue between there and Fourth Avenue in the 600 block, that's now completely down. And he's just in the process of cleaning out the lumber and stuff, but that building is down. Today I currently did also draft our yearly press release referring to fall, since now fall is here, I think, as of yesterday. So just in regards to leaves and burning and things, so that way people are made aware again of the burning upon proclamation from the mayor and other issues that we have that come up in the fall. So you guys should be seeing that come out hopefully in the next day or two. So other than that, does anybody had anything new in their wards that came up?
How
or-
about the house up on Fourth Avenue Northeast by the light plant that was supposed to be tore down?
I have not heard anything on that one. You mean on 6th Avenue Northeast there, where
Yeah.
they were evicted out of there?
Oh, Sixth instead of Fourth,
Yeah,
yes.
yep. I have not heard anything new on that one yet. I mean, as of right now, everything on the exterior of the property as far as nuisance violations are under control. As far as the actual building of the structure and stuff, that I'm not aware of. But as far as I know, yeah, the bank has had it. That's what they said, is that it was going to be getting tore down, but I have yet to see that. So I haven't heard anything new on it.
Is there any way to follow up on that at all?
Actually, what I could do is it's pretty easy. I could go on and see if a bank has taken ownership of it, through the assessors. If a bank has taken ownership, then I can make contact with that bank, and they have an actual division that handles that kind of thing, and I can talk to somebody there. And then hopefully I can do that and give you guys an update here next month on that if nothing new develops on it.
Talking about the one on the corner?
Yeah.
Sixth
What
Avenue.
about the one on this side of there, it's just a hole in the ground?
Actually,
how
that
long are
one
they-
there, there was an individual that had bought that and was going to be building, and then that fell through, so then it just sat with a hole, and now with the fence around
My
it.
question is, how long do we leave them set with?
Well, it's actually been, from my understanding from the neighbor, it's actually been, now somebody else is going to be putting a house up there, unless that's fallen through too. But last time I talked to Irv, he said that was now somebody else was going to be putting a house there, and the other guy had fallen through. So hopefully something's going to be started there. I just don't know when.
Okay.
Question, Brian, if somebody had something they wanted to get a hold of you on, can they leave a message for you just calling the general police number?
Yeah, most definitely. If they call just the normal police department number, they can put that individual through to my voicemail, or like lots of times I come back to work after my 2 days off and I have a bunch of notes all over my desk of people that have called in that are, waiting to be talked to. So yeah, definitely just call the police department's number and they'll put you through to my voicemail, or just leave me a direct message.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Thank you
All right,
very
have a
much.
nice night.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Next on our agenda, I'm going to ask our library director to come forward while I read a proclamation. I think everybody knows you. If you want, we'll get you on television for tonight. So there's an event happening at the library, and so we have a proclamation that we want to make sure this is noted. Honoring the 10th anniversary celebration of the Independence Public Library. Whereas the public libraries are one of the largest nonprofit organizations in the country, with more than 16,000 public library buildings in the United States. And whereas Independence became the first city in Iowa to take advantage of the law allowing a tax-supported library in 1874, while 558 other public libraries in Iowa followed suit in the next 144 years. And whereas June 6, 1895 became the initial opening for the Free Public Library at the new Munson Building, located up a curving staircase on the second floor, located at 210 2nd Street Northeast in Independence, Iowa. And whereas the new Independence Public Library broke ground on May 12, 2007 at 805 1st Street East in Independence, Iowa, opened its doors to the public on September 10th of 2008, and celebrated with a grand opening on October 12, 2008. And whereas the Independence Public Library is devoted to being an essential component, providing relevant services and engaging people community-wide. And whereas the library has a wealth of accessible resources with a sizable collection of materials, a broad range of classes, events, and program opportunities for all ages and levels, and a significant number of online programs, all for use by our citizens and cardholders. And whereas the services and programs provided by the Independence Public Library have and will continue to have a positive impact on our community and citizens. Whereas I hereby offer my respect, congratulations, and very best wishes to the Independence Public Library and its employees on its 10th anniversary celebration on the new facility, to be held at the library Sunday, October 7th, 2018, from 1 to 4 p.m. Now, therefore, I, Bonita Davis, Mayor of City of Independence, do hereby proclaim Sunday, the 7th day of October, as the 10th anniversary celebration of the Independence Public Library, and hereby call upon the citizens of the Independence area thereof to encourage and recognize the library and its accomplishments in the last decade during the celebration, to be held from 1 to 4, dated this 24th day of September 2018. I have a copy you can take with you tonight. I don't know about the rest of you, but I was lucky enough to actually get a card in the mail too about this, because they're going to be having magicians, balloon artists, ice cream and other treats, memories and displays, an artist showcase with John Decker, outdoor games and door prizes. So I've been to one of their events. Was that your 5th one? I'm trying to think when you had this before.
Yes, we had a 5-year.
Yeah, was
anniversary.
Awesome, so much fun. The girls or the staff out there at the library do a fantastic job and work hard to get this going, and it's very well worth it. So if you are able to come, go to it, because you'll miss it otherwise. Anything you'd
Awesome.
like to add for us?
Sure, thank you so much. We appreciate you highlighting the anniversary celebration for us. And I can't believe it's been 10 years, but my daughter's 10 and a half, so I know it has been. Yeah, 10 years, so we're celebrating. And as Bonnie said, we're going to have magicians and balloon artists, and we'll have food, of course, ice cream, and bars and toppings, so you can make ice cream sundaes if you'd like. And then John Decker, with his great artwork, will have an artist showcase in the community room. Outdoor activities for the kids outside if weather permits. And we'll have quite a few different displays showing things from the last 10 years and even prior to that. As you heard, we were the first free public library in Iowa taking advantage of using taxes to support the library in 1874. So that's pretty amazing. We do have special gifts for the first 250 guests, so come early. And if you're worried about parking, there is a shuttle service. Thank you to the Buchanan County Hospital for helping us with this, Buchanan County Health Center, excuse me. If you go there and park just off the 1st Street East in the parking area there, they're going to be running their bus shuttle back and forth between that parking area and the library. So parking is kind of short, so you might want to take advantage of that and go to the hospital, park there right off 1st Street, and ride the shuttle in. I think Randy Miller's driving it, so nice driver and all. So, one more thing, the Historical Society is also opening up the Lee Mansion. So if you'd like to tour the Lee Mansion, you can take advantage of that on that day also.
Sounds great.
So, yeah, lots going on. I hope everyone can come, and we're looking forward to it. So thank you so much for the proclamation.
We appreciate all that you do.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay, now we're under resolutions. I need a motion to approve a resolution to assess property owners for Chapter 52 mowing failure to comply.
So moved. Second.
By Scharf, second by Kurt. Any other discussion? And I need a roll call, please.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
O'Loughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried. Next is a motion to approve the street financial report and authorize the city clerk to submit it to the Iowa DOT.
So moved.
Motion by Hill,
Second.
second by Scharf. Any other discussion, questions?
I was curious as what goes under the administration fees.
I would have to pull up the reports that we use, John, if you would like to come in.
Okay. It just seemed like 452,000, it must be,
That's gonna be like your
Significant.
wages and things like that.
like what?
Your wages and things like that.
Our wages?
Your street employees' wages.
Oh.
This is what you
Oh.
use.
I was gonna say.
This report, as you argued in the last council meeting, this report is for what you use road use tax for. So we have to document what you're using road use tax for, and then any other funds that you use to maintain your, per se, streets department.
Okay. Can't be our wages.
Yeah, I couldn't.
You didn't see that big jump in your check? Okay, I need a roll call, please.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried. Next, we have, we need we're going into a public hearing to vacate chapter 137.02, so I need a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Scharf.
Second.
Second by O'Laughlin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Now I need a motion to hold the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Scharf.
Second.
Seconded by Hayward. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are now in public hearing. We had sent this to Planning and Zoning, and they made a recommendation to approve this item. It's property, let's see, request of being made due to, on the east side of the Wapsie River. The request is being made due to the properties on both sides of the street being owned by the same person. The street will never be improved due to location of the street. The property has been surveyed and a legal description has been created. Sale of the property will include the survey as well as development of the fair market value. And we need this approval will allow the staff to proceed with offering this parcel for sale and to develop the sales agreement, which will require the council to approve that agreement, finalize it.
This street is just simply next to the river. It's not being used at all now, is it? Just being mowed by the guy that wants to buy it?
I believe so. I don't think we received anything, emails or mail or anything like that, okay? I don't see anybody out there that I think is gonna wanna talk to this, but if you are, please step forward. Okay,
I'd
seeing,
make a motion to close the hearing.
thank you.
Second.
So we have a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments by Hayward, seconded by Scharf. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Now I would need a motion to approve a resolution for vacation and offering of sale for the West Street.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by O'Laughlin, second by Kurtz. Roll call, please.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried. Under new business, our first item is First Street East. Engineer is here. If you want to come up and introduce yourself.
I can see another tree died.
I'm Dan Kimball with AECOM. We are the engineers for the First Street project. And there's just a couple items I wanted to talk with you today. Last council meeting, we talked about the colored crosswalks in the downtown area, and then the improvements to the library crossing as well. And at that time, we talked about, you had indicated you wanted colored for the crosswalks as well as the median and the by the library crossing. So we went back and we're working on that as we speak. But I did have a recommendation at the library. Just looking at the jointing layout and constructability as well as kind of the aesthetics, we would recommend coloring the crosswalks and painting the median still instead of coloring the median. One of the reasons for that is if we color the median right with the crosswalks, they're going to blend together. So if we don't, if there's contrasting colors there, the crosswalk's going to stand out a lot more than if everything is colored. The other reason for that is constructability. When they pave this, they're going to pave through, and typically our construction joints, we like to try to have perpendicular, straight construction joints. So if we leave this opening for the median and form out the round radius for the median for the colored concrete, we can do that. It's going to be more. It's going to be more costly to do that, and it's going to be harder to form up for them in there. So it's going to take a little bit more time to do that as well. So just from a constructability, and then as well as I think the aesthetics, making the crosswalk stand out a little bit more, we would recommend not coloring the median area, just coloring the crosswalk area, and that's what's kind of shown on these drawings that I sent out. We would have the colored crosswalk. Now keep in mind, we'll still have white striping on the edges of that crosswalk, which is a requirement. So we're still going to have some painting out there, but obviously if the paint wears off or wears, then you're still going to see that crosswalk area.
I think that makes a lot of sense because with the people that are coming west, wanting to make that left-hand turn to the library, it's going to make it more distinct there too, I think, for the turn lane.
Well, and I like the idea. I guess we're trying to make sure people know where the crosswalk is at. So if we have different patches of colored concrete out there, I don't want somebody to get the wrong impression. I mean, we have it marked, we have it signed, but by saying this is the crosswalk and showing only the color in the crosswalk area, I think that's more beneficial. But ultimately, it comes down to we can color the median. That we can do that. I just wanted to bring this to your attention because we would recommend not coloring that.
Simpler is better to me.
And if you look at the second page, if you're worried about signing or anything like that, that kind of shows the additional signing we're doing at that crosswalk area as well. So we're going to have stop here signs to show the cars, the traffic, where to stop when the rapid flashing beacons are activated. And then prior to that stop here sign, there's going to be a pedestrian ahead crossing sign. So there's going to be two signs essentially leading up to that crosswalk, and then there'll also be the rapid flashing beacons, the improved rectangular rapid flashing beacons at that area. So we got the additional signage plus the colored crosswalk.
On this diagram, you show like a kind of a rectangle right of the red sidewalk.
That is the stop bar for the traffic. You're talking about the thick white
No, I
line?
mean the yellow. There's a yellow right at the end of the stop line.
Yeah, that will be a painted median as well. That's part of the painted median to kind of protect the crosswalk area there.
I guess how far back here, the second median is kind of deceptive.
Somehow they're not hearing you, Bob.
Oh, must have been an accident. It just seems like there's a distance between those two that if you put that median back there to the right, the kind of triangular one, is that telling people that they can stand there to cross the street?
Between the two medians?
Yeah, no, well, see, I can understand the median on the sidewalk where you have the red crossing.
That is just to filter the traffic. As we start coming through the crosswalk area, this is where we're starting to merge, and we're merging into the 3-lane section, which is on the west of the intersection there. So that median starts the channelizing of the lane.
Okay, so that has something to do different than the crosswalk, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Can I pick your brain for a minute?
Yeah.
While we're on this, what do you think about driver feedback signs? Your speed is, and it flashes. Personally, when I see one of those, I immediately take my foot off the gas and look at my speedometer. And I'm wondering if that would be as effective or not as effective at slowing people down.
I think, and this is just kind of personal experience, I could bring it back and talk to our traffic operations, but when one of those goes in permanently, at first, the local people that drive that every day, you know, are, like you said, they'll slow down, but once they realize that that's there, you know, they're not necessarily linked to anything, they're not getting tickets when it tells them they're going 35 and a 25 or something like that. They learn that because they drive it every day, and it doesn't necessarily slow the people down. But, I mean, people from out of town and things like that, I can see a benefit of doing something like that. I don't know offhand what the costs associated with one of those. Do you have a cost of?
Depends on what you're looking at. I'm actually currently looking at a speed trailer to move around, not just with one spot, and that's about $7,000.
The mounted ones, what I've checked and seen, were like $3,000 to $5,000.
Okay. I can do some checking on that. Like I said, I can talk to our traffic operations engineer and verify, get her thoughts on that. You know, because it is a 25 mile speed limit through that area. You know, that's a fairly low speed limit. People tend
I think
to
I'd look at it as challenge accepted. How fast can I get it to go?
We still have the 25 mile an hour on the street that's there now. That will be.
Yeah, it'll still be signed. Yes, yes. All the signs that are out there now will go back in as far as the speed limit signs and things like that.
Just curious to pick your brain a little on that.
No, I mean, that's kind of my thoughts. But like I said, I'll get some information and I can get that to you.
And I kind of like Dustin's idea. I did look at the trailer ones, you know, now the ones I looked at, they had software available to where you could monitor, you know, what the speeds are and what the traffic count is at different times during the day, you know, to where then if you have a different spot that shows up as a problem area, you can just move it to that area. So just curious.
Okay. Nope, I'll look into that a little bit more. So get you some more information on that. So I guess today, since there was an action calling for the colored medians, I would be looking for direction. I mean, like I said, we can still have the colored medians in there. We can get those in there. It's just we would recommend going with the painted medians and just the colored crosswalks.
Okay. Do you also want to address number 2 as far as the lead?
Yeah, I can talk about that before we do the action. So I'm sure many of you drive First Street fairly often, saw the big hole just north of First Street on 2nd Avenue there. I believe it was a service that they were searching for, feeding the old Malik Theater in the area. I noticed that, and actually I was about to call Mark, and he called me that same day, Luloff. And he indicated that they found lead line service in that area. And just looking at it, he believes that the majority of them in the downtown area are most likely lead lined as well. We don't have the records or know exactly which services have been replaced, which haven't. But just looking at that area, our current plan is to replace the service and add a new valve out to just inside the curb line in the parking area, so we didn't have to get into the streetscaping area that was completed here recently. We didn't want to rip up that sidewalk to replace services. Knowing now that there could be potentially lead line services with the discovery of that area, we believe that the residents, the property owners in the area would need to be notified as the potential of lead line services being contained in that area, and that can be done through a letter from the city. Building on that, we'd also think that it's probably a good idea to give them the option, if they want to replace their services at the time of construction, that could be done. It's going to be a lot cheaper and a lot easier to do it at that time. We'd be looking at boring the service into those properties. And looking at that, Independence, the way, talking to Alan Mark, the water main service, the property owner owns the service out to the main. So it would fall back on the property owner to replace that section from basically the curb line into each of the buildings. So what our recommendation, we kind of came up with two options. I ran these by Al just to see. He was kind of leaning towards option one, which what we would do is send out a letter to the property owners explaining the situation of the potential for lead line services in the downtown area. We are explaining the construction project where we're replacing the service out to, this far. The remaining 10 to 15 feet approximately would be their responsibility to replace, but the city would actually have it in the plan set. We would put it in our plan set as being in place. The property owner would have the option to either pay for it outright, do a voluntary assessment, them, or decline it and say my service is fine, I'm going to keep my service like that. With that letter going out, we would also have to send a right of entry agreement allowing that they would have to sign, so they would allow the contractor to get into their building to hook up the new service. Option two, so option one would include approximately 49 services in the plans being completed from the roadway to the businesses. And then once we heard from the property owners, 30 of those might be deleted, 10 of them might be deleted, depending on what property owners decide to move forward with paying for that section of service. Option two, we would send out a similar letter, but we would essentially tell the property owners, list a few names of contractors, but essentially leave it up to them and say, during construction, they need to work with the prime contractor, but leave it up to them to hire the contractor to do that portion of their service while the roadway is opened up. And then they would have to coordinate that. There is a little concern, but if we kind of narrowed it to some bonded contractors in the area, typically people are going to choose a similar contractor. But if we get 25 contractors out there, the coordination effort on that to make sure we don't have any property delays is somewhat of a concern for that option.
What's the average price per owner going to be, would you say?
We called a few companies to talk boring prices, and a lot of them were between $30 and $50 linear foot. And then I would estimate probably another $500 or so to $1,000 to actually hook up. You have to have a certified plumber come in and actually hook up the service within the buildings. It's going to depend on what kind of bids we get from the contractor, but I would think $1,500 to $2,500 a property owner, depending on the length of a project there. Now, with 40 plus that we may be doing, we might get a better price when we go when we bid the project.
And we're sure this was not touched when we did the streetscaping.
Everything I have heard, I don't know for sure, but everything I've talked to Al, and nobody could find any records of any water main work being done. I talked to Mark with the city Luloff, and I couldn't find any information of water main work being done at the time.
But they would do everything boring-wise. They wouldn't have to disturb the sidewalks or anything.
That would be the plan, yes, to bore it. Because we'd have the street open, they could get their boring machine in with the street open. If the residents or the property owners declined, it's their right to decline. They own the service, so if they decline and they don't want to replace it, if they were to come back in 10 years or 5 years, if that service went bad, then they would have to most likely tear up the sidewalk and the road, at least the road just to close to the curb and gutter line, to replace that service.
And also the sidewalk then?
Most likely, yeah, because it's going to be a lot harder to bore when you don't have the room for a bore pit or anything like that.
I think I like option number one.
And the property owner still has, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, and either way, with the way the services are for Independence, it's the property owner's direct, it's their service, so it's their responsibility. It's just knowing what we know from this that was uncovered here a couple weeks ago. I think we owe it to give them the information, present them with the information and give them the option to replace that at that time.
It's probably a good idea since the last time we did Main Street was almost 70 years ago.
Yeah, and it's possible that some of these services have been replaced, or they're not lead lined. So there's a possibility, and some of the property owners might know that, and then they'll just decline, and that will be something that will, the contractor will remove that. And we won't pay them for that.
Is that something that can be checked when the street is torn up?
Some of it, I mean, because the problem is most of the valves that are out there are in the current sidewalk, and sometimes coming from the main to that valve, a lot of times was lead lined, and then from that valve into the building might have been copper, and it's difficult to know exactly what some of the pipes are. When you see the pipe, the part that's uncovered, you'll be able to tell if it's lead lined. Knowing from the valve in, if that's lead line, that's going to be fairly difficult unless it's noticeable in the building. But sometimes then again, as they come into the building, they change sizes as well when they hook up to the plumbing in the building.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, from the center of the street to the valve, or from the water main to the valve, could they tell at that point if that building was lead lined?
Some of them probably can. I'm not going to say all of them you'll be able to tell, because you still don't know what's coming through the building there.
And you can see right on Main Street, different businesses, the shut-off is closer to a building or further from a building. It varies. There's no uniform.
Well, and some of the buildings that are out there too, they have like crow's feet, what they call them, where 4 or 5 services come into kind of one larger pipe, and then that one larger pipe goes into the main, which is not a practice that's really followed anymore. So what we're planning on doing is separating those services. So there's one service goes right into the main for each structure.
So you're wanting us to amend our earlier direction mainly on the number 1, the medium portion of the library crossing stuff? We don't need to amend anything for number 2.
No, that's more of, I wanted to get it in front of you to discuss it, and when Al's back, maybe, we can kind of discuss it, and then next council meeting, we could look at doing something on that.
Is that timely enough to get things?
Yeah, we can get it into the plans for that.
October 8th is the next council meeting.
Yeah, that
They
would
have a
work.
work session on the 1st as well.
Can we put that on the agenda for the work session?
I'd make a motion to amend the earlier direction, give the engineer the authority to go with painted versus the colored concrete.
I would second that.
Did you get that motion?
Yep.
Does anybody want that motion read back to you, or do you understand what you're going to vote on? If so, we want a roll call.
Shar?
Yes.
Malakli?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Hayward?
Yes?
Hill?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, next, number B is 17th Street Southeast Addendum.
Hi, Brian.
Good evening. Brian Crawford, Engineering here in Independence. What you've got before you tonight in this item is our recommendation that's coming out of a study that we were asked to perform upstream from 17th Street. And I think that came from the result of a phone call that the city manager received from St. Charlie's. And then discussed that with the Public Works Committee. They have experienced some flooding out there on their site at St. Charlie's, and they wanted to find out if there was any improvements that they could do on 17th Street that would help those upstream localized flooding there on their site. So we did, at the direction of the city manager, put together a study, and essentially the results of the study are that as you look at the capacities of those pipes that are upstream that both St. Charlie's and the Dollar Tree facility have installed, they actually have more capacity than the culvert that is underneath the 17th Street. So if the council would like to do, basically provide a higher level of service there in that culvert under 17th Street, now would be the time to do it. And the contractor has provided a price there to upsize that pipe from 42-inch diameter to 54. And then you'd be provided, the city would then be providing the same level of service that the private property owners have provided to convey that storm.
I had one question. It was my understanding when the city or when the state goes out and resurfaces 150 down there, they were going to do some storm sewer work by filling in those ditches. Would this connect into that system, and would that be the same size the state would be putting in?
My understanding of what the state is going to do is actually on the opposite side of the road, those ditches that are in front of, let's see, the veterinary clinic that's out there. Those ditches are real steep, and I think they've had some accidents that ended up resulting closing portions of 150 out there to try and get wreckers in to get the vehicles out of those steep ditches. So my understanding of those improvements, Bob, are related. They're actually on the opposite side. There's not as dramatic of a ditch on the east side of the road, which is where we're working.
Isn't there, right in front of Fairways, a fairly good-sized ditch?
Yes, yep, and that's on the east side, yep. So the main drainage ditch there, but again, I think those improvements that they were talking about, that the DOT was talking about, that were related to safety, and they talked about filling in that ditch to make a more safe operating environment out there within the state's right-of-way.
Wouldn't they have to have something for water flow that goes through there now? I mean, it sounds like it'd be a huge problem if you just fill in there.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right. They would have to put one west side. Urban. You've got a rural section out there versus an urban section here in town. So they're trying to create more of an urban section.
We're talking about coordinated with that. Rather than trying to cross Highway 150, I think they'd go across Lover's Lane and down into the river. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And
So we're-
on what they have on their, as their information from Check Fry was a 39,000. You told me that was reduced to 34. There was
Yeah,
something that was
essentially.
in there.
Yes. Essentially, the 39,000 is the price for the larger pipe, but then we would no longer be adding, there's about $5,000 worth of work that was related to the 42-inch pipe, so we would no longer do that. So the net increase, some figures here for you, the net increase would be 34,785.20, so about $35,000 reduced from that, almost 40,000 that report.
Still $35,000.
Yeah.
Why was that pipe so undersized under 17th Street in the first place? Why, this should not be the city's problem. Somebody designed that street, that culvert is not big enough. Sion Charlie's built at the bottom of a hill, that's where the water is gonna run. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out where the water's gonna be. But now all of a sudden, they're going after the deep pockets, and we're gonna cough up 40 grand for it. And we don't have a horse in this race.
Yeah, and this is not a crisis at this moment. I think Sion Charlie's has had one event in 2013 that Paul shared with me. He had some photos and things where it actually did flood their showroom floor and their shop and their warehouse and things. So
It was pretty significant flood.
it was. Yep, it was. And so again, whenever we talk about drainage, we talk about level of service. And what level of service do you provide? A 54-inch pipe carries almost double what that 42 will carry. And so, to your point, Mike, the pipe that's out there is functioning. We routinely look at the condition of utilities when we're doing street work, and we rely heavily, obviously, on your city staff to help us with that because they know where the problems are. And I don't have to tell anybody that we've had a lot of rainfall recently, so this is at the forefront of everybody's mind right now. And it's simply an opportunity where if you want to do it, it's never going to be cheaper to do than right now. And you will be putting a little over $5,000 into that 42-inch pipe that's there. So as part of the widening doing out there on 17th Street.
How many years has that street been in out there?
I want to say
25?
No, like 40.
40?
Yeah, I want to say it was mid-70s when the Larson commercial subdivision.
Oh, no, I wasn't out there in 79 or 80. Because I worked for Ed those summers when it was,
Okay.
that street did not exist. You had to come into all the Larson proper from Three Elms Road.
Okay. Yeah, the date that I'm remembering is on the first edition plat, I think was sometime in the 70s, but perhaps that edition, the paving improvements there, perhaps those didn't go in.
Yeah, there was no way to get back there from that at that time.
Okay. So if it was, you have an idea how long?
But between 83 and 86 probably.
When was Sion Charlie's moved out there? What year was that?
2010 or 12.
2010? Yeah.
I hate to say it, but we probably approved the plans that when the street got put in, and we accepted the street after it was put in.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's causing business problems and we have an opportunity to fix it, deferring to legal counsel, but I would think at some point Sion Charlie's may, if it became a problem bad enough and the more concrete that gets put out there and the more construction that goes on in that area.
It's hard for me to weigh in without knowing about the topography and the development and what's gone in where and, where's the water's coming from and all of that,
Well,
Yeah, Bob,
we're
and
adding that
make an
trail there
assessment.
too, so you're talking about more surface area again that's gonna be draining
And,
water, so it's. it's an
That
issue.
area does continue to develop. You guys are looking at, the drainage from a possible Enterprise Drive East extension and then the Rydell facility that has been talked about. All that's a lot of additional paving and water runs off of paving. So
I think we pay for it now when the street's torn up, or we do like we had to do when we did Enterprise Drive, we play catch-up, costs us twice as much.
this project I know, additional work I know is a painful thing for for you guys. One thing to consider is that this project did come in 26,000 under the budget, and there is the DOT is financing. And this is a 55-45 financing from the DOT through their U-Step program, and storm sewer improvements were included in that agreement. I did review the agreement earlier today. I spoke with the mayor and reviewed the funding agreement, and the limit on that was 200,000. It was 55% up to $200,000. So, you know, you guys talk a lot about leveraging dollars and doing projects where you've got some other funding sources to take care of these issues, and this is certainly related to the improvements there at 17th Street. So we would be submitting this to the DOT for 55% reimbursement as part of the project.
I guess the other thing we got to think about is when they're putting an additional turn lane in, there's a lot of fill that has to go on out there, so we're gonna have to dig up a portion of that anyway, so.
That's right, and the photographs that you should have on your computer as part of this submittal, that's really about the best way to illustrate it, that you've got the upstream pipes that are half full, and then you've got the 42-inch pipe. You can see that it's almost full at that point. So it's certainly the weak link in the system there.
Yeah, I hate to say it, I know our national government says there's no climate change and 100-year rains are not really happening, but
it's hard to look at the river and believe that, isn't it?
It is. So I think probably if we have an opportunity to fix a potential water problem for a business, or there'll be more businesses in that area.
I think I'd make a motion to approve the addition of the culvert improvement to 54 inches.
I'd second it.
Did you say that DOT's gonna foot 55% of that?
This project, because we're substituting basically what they would have paid for the 42 inches, because we're substituting those, we would submit that for reimbursement to the DOT. Yep. And that's a reimbursement program. The agreement said up to
200,000.
Yep, up to 200,000. So you're really looking at, this was a 189,000 was the original bid. So you're not going to reach that maximum.
With the addition, it's going to be $224,490 with the original bid plus this additional $34,000.
Thank you.
So, which is a little more than what your original estimate was at $216, but
Yep.
if we get 55% of it from the DOT, they would be paying $123,469.50. We would still be responsible for $101,020.50.
Usually those study.
No, I mean for the whole project. How is that?
Engineering is not included in the reimbursement from the state.
Not
It's just construction dollars
Okay.
is what they will pay.
And the $216,044 was strictly
Construction.
costs?
Yep.
Okay. We do have a motion and a second on the floor to approve this 54-inch culvert to be put in there. Is there any other discussion or continued discussion? If not, I'll call for a roll call.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Deanna,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Kurd,
Yes.
Hayward,
Reluctantly, yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Sharp.
Yes.
I think they're all reluctant, to tell you the truth. Motion carried.
All right, thank
So-
you.
Thanks, Brian.
You need to stay up there for the next one?
I can, you're right.
as long as you're included here. Next on the agenda is First Street West Trail.
Okay, so
did-
this, oh, go ahead.
No, I did get a hold of Kyle Durant from Intercog to get some information about how we applied for this. Our original estimated cost for the project was $269,229. And our grant request, or then our TAP grant was $189,543. But we were only programmed or received $145,000 for this. And then this cost for this, doing the easement thing was additional 67,000. Okay. So the cost of this is creeping up. And the only thing we're gonna get in funding from anyone else is gonna be $145,000, period.
And the funding for the trail itself is not in our current budget, right?
For the trail west that we're talking about?
West Trail.
I don't believe.
I don't think we put it in there.
It's for next year's budget.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's 2020.
Yeah.
I do think we probably, as one of my cohorts from the past said, people out there in TV land are probably wondering, what are we talking about? First Street West Trail, we've been talking about this for years, and we asked Brian and Crawford Engineering to do a study for the city on whether it would be good to run a trail west along First Street West on the south side of the street or on the north side of the street. Last time we looked at this issue, we talked about running it on the south side of the street. There were quite a few issues with several residents and businesses along the south side. Once you got past the school property that did not want a sidewalk or a trail put on the south side of the street. What Brian did is he presented to the Public Works and also then to our workshop here, the last workshop, a proposal on how to deal with putting a trail west. And basically what we were looking at from the proposal was to go west in front of the school district property, basically from the railroad to the west edge of the school property. At that point, we would put a crossing across First Street West in the Dollar General store area there.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, then continue west along the north side of First Street West, out to Super 8 and that area. Thinking being is that we could put the trail or the sidewalk on the north side of the light poles or utility poles. I think, Brian, you said it would be like $67,000 to move those light poles?
$600,000.
Ah, 600,000. I knew
Add a
it
zero.
shocked my mind, but.
Yeah.
But anyway, to run it west along the north side of First Street West, we would need to obtain some easements, some right-of-way from some property owners and from some businesses before we could do that. And so that's what's brought us to this point here. We haven't had real good luck on our own getting easements. And what has been presented to us here is that there are companies out there that will go out and negotiate, explain the project, talk to the property owners, explain what's going on. And that's what this particular issue right here is whether we want to retain, we should go out and talk to those property owners on the north side of First Street West from Dollar General going west to Super 8 on that. So hopefully I brought people up to speed on why we're even talking about this particular motion.
And this is a process that you guys have used in the past when you think that the easements could be complicated. In fact, you used it here on the First Street East project just earlier this year. And JCG is the same company that you're using to do that work. It's really all that they do, and they navigate through the DOT and federal government's processes that you have to go through, including notifications. There's a relocation act that has to be followed if you're relocating signs and things like that. So they're well versed in this. Again, it's just about all that they do.
So one of the problems we would have on this project, and I think that most people I ever talk to believe we need a sidewalk trail going west. But the problem comes in is if we don't have the right-of-ways or easements, it doesn't happen. And so that's probably the first step in the process. It's kind of like the DOT going out and putting a road in. You don't start building the road. Of course, we did on Highway 20 in Delaware County when we had a great 4-lane for how many years because you didn't have right-of-ways on either end of it. So you had a great 4-lane road in Delaware County. And certainly you don't want to put a trail or a sidewalk in that leaves every other property without it.
How many easements do we need?
17.
They're going to be expensive.
See, my concern is you're looking at over $60,000 that we have not budgeted, and the construction's not budgeted, and the chances of getting the grant are iffy on trail projects. I think we probably ought to just hold on this until we get through our budget planning process for next year and look at it.
I thought it was
I appreciate everything that Crawford's has done trying to get the plan in place, but
The only grant that we did get was this TAP grant, which we applied for back in 15, but the most we can get is $145,000.
right.
And that has been approved. If we decide not to do anything on this year, I think that money goes back into the kitty. And in fact, when we applied for this is because there was another town that had a project they were working on and weren't going to be able to complete, so that money was open and we jumped in with our bid in 15. I requested $189,705, but ended up getting $189,543 and ended up getting only $145.
And that money can't be applied to the Enterprise Drive project that we're doing?
I don't believe so. I think it's a totally different situation. That doesn't mean we can't go back in again when we have more knowing what we're doing and how, that type of thing, what our costs are going to be, and try to get a grant. But those usually are out there 3 or 4 years. Like I say, this one was done back in 15 when we applied for this.
I would agree with John. I mean, the unexpected costs in this have increased, and we just approved an unexpected cost already, so it would not bother me to table this for this fiscal year and look at.
Something that you could do at next month's committee meetings on this project would be to talk with Intercog and look at either scaling basically phasing this trail, kind of reducing the scope of a first phase in order to try and get closer to those budgeted dollars, that $145,000. There may be something that you could do even if it was only a portion of it. And I think Al could, I'm sure, visit with them. They meet every spring and fall to do those awards, and so there might be an opportunity to kind of repackage the trail due to with the alignment that's been selected based on our preliminary design, essentially these costs that are coming into play with right-of-way acquisitions. I think that's something you could probably kind of repackage the project around.
I don't believe there were any acquisitions listed or any amount for acquisitions back in 15 when we applied for these dollars. And again, part of that was because this money just happened to come available when another town had to turn the money back in. And we tried to jump on it to at least get something to get this started. And we had no idea what acquisitions would be or
How long is that
when they-
145 available for us?
I have a feeling, because they're already putting pressure on us, that they're wanting to know when we're going to be doing this. Otherwise, they're going to be asking for that money back to put it out for other communities.
If
Yeah,
we
fiscal-
scaled the project back, would they scale the money back?
And I have no idea. That's something we would have to talk
I think that's
to
something that
Kyle.
Intercog could tell us. I think someone mentioned tabling this at this meeting and taking it back to the committee. I think there's probably an opportunity to do some communication and probably investigate some alternates and some options. And if you do decide to move forward with those alternates or options, it doesn't kick you out. You wouldn't lose that $145,000 that's already been allocated, because that's allocated for fiscal 19, and we're only talking about a month delay in the bidding and things. So that's
I
not
think
going to disqualify.
that makes more sense.
I can see doing the part on the south side, as phase one, and then regrouping and taking a look at the other.
If we can get the total 145.
Well, one of the things we had before, I think the right-of-ways, we knew all along it would be cheaper to run it on the south side because we don't have the utilities. I think Brian pointed out of something we hadn't really thought about. In order to raise the grade to put in the trail or sidewalk on the south side, we would be putting fill back almost to some of the buildings that are along there. And that, I don't think that's very acceptable.
Which is why.
You
a lot
take
of
from
people
the
like-
back of the curb 17 feet, you're gonna be in the front door of Rush Park Tavern, Ariana's Cafe, Mike's Automotive. Those places aren't much over 17 feet off the road, I don't think. I haven't gotten out and measured them, but
Coming back this other direction, that childcare thing that's right there by the school is probably 17 feet from that building.
that's way more than those other ones are.
Is it? Okay.
I would guess that at 30 feet.
There is, through our preliminary design process, we have determined that there is enough room. We're just going to be taking less. Those areas that do have the buildings that are closer, we can essentially weave in and out of the power poles. The power poles are the big deterrent to the north side of the road because there's a great deal of expense in trying to relocate those. But our preliminary design is showing that we can fit a trail in there with some limited easement acquisitions. But again, they're going to come at a cost.
With this originally as a trail, there was going to be, what, 6 feet, 5 feet?
The trail guidelines require that you have a minimum of 5 feet from the face of the curb to the edge of the paved trail.
Okay.
And it works out on the north side because the power poles are in there. We have to be 2 foot clear from the edge of the power poles. So if you essentially envision, and I don't know how much time you want to spend on it, but I do have the same presentation with me that I gave at the Public Works that has some photos that shows the space that's available there behind the power poles.
Is there any difference to make this 4 feet instead of 5, to make it a sidewalk instead of a trail, or, because our main purpose is trying to get the children and the kids, or people be able to walk along that area and not have to walk in the street.
Sure.
We lose the funding opportunity.
There are width requirements that are tied to the funding. So you're right, if you wanted to scale this back width-wise, then there wouldn't be an opportunity to take advantage of the trail. And I think, when it was originally explained to me anyway, what the bigger picture here is to look at a community-wide trail system, not just a sidewalk system, but a trail system. So, but if that, if that changes, maybe we talk about that at next month's committee meetings, evaluate some options, get some more information from Intercog, Kyle Durant, that the mayor mentioned, so.
Brian,
I
when you were
think
doing
that's
this
our
before,
best opportunity.
when you were doing this before, when the presentation, where you're gonna have a crossing, 2 of them.
Yep.
Now, did that come up with some numbers for those lights? The system that you showed us, or you got any alternatives? What I'm saying is, we don't know we're gonna invest there yet, right?
No, we've not prepared an estimate. I think somebody had done some research, maybe it was you, Carl.
I did some, because I did for the library,
Okay.
because I would love to see something like that up there. But I know
The
that.
numbers that you were talking about seemed reasonable to me based on my knowledge of intersection improvements and traffic signalization. We're
Right.
only talking about one pole, we're only talking about a couple of beacons, so it's a fraction of what it takes to signalize an
For
intersection,
signal
essentially.
Right. But I didn't, if there was any other alternatives, or that system you had, it was probably the one that I seen online, or I looked up, and they had something similar to that in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, I think, I think that's a terrific alternative, what we talked about that night. That's really your best and most safe option for crossing, especially when you're talking about the amount of kids that are gonna be crossing there in front of the school.
Right. Thank you.
Brian, were you working with us on Phase 2 out here on Enterprise Drive?
Yes, yep.
Money is pretty tight, isn't it? It seemed to me when our discussions,
On the Phase 2 trail?
Phase
Yeah,
2.
that was part of the reason why we broke that project into 2 phases as well, is, trying to leverage a few more of the dollars that are available through the DOT's Transportation Alternatives Program, so.
Before we even start this project, don't we have to have all those easements approved?
No, we have to have before, well, let me take that back. We have to certify, there's a project development certification that goes in with the final plans. And at that point, that's when we have to certify that we have all of the right-of-way needs that are required by the project. So before we start construction, yes, but not before we start planning or anything like that.
I think we got a lot more questions than answers, so.
Okay. So we're just gonna let this one go for now and see what we can get for more information? And
Table it.
you wanna make that official?
I make the motion to table it until our
this?
I second it.
meeting, next meeting.
Table it to, do you have a certain time or just?
Well, probably to our committee meeting,
Which
and
is
then-
next week?
right, but then we wouldn't vote on it till the council meeting anyway, so it actually would be tabled till the next council meeting
Okay.
with discussion at the committee meeting.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Already did
I
second.
miss it, Vaughn.
Oh, Vaughn did. I didn't hear him. He raised his hand. Okay, I have a motion and a second to table this then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks,
You're
Brian.
welcome.
Not sure whether you stay up there, because now our next one is our final plat with Goldfinch.
Tired of listening to me?
You don't need that one?
Steve's here.
Okay. I know you've been out there. I need a motion to approve a resolution approving the final platting of the area to be known as Goldfinch Court.
I will make that motion.
Motion by Hayward,
Second.
second by Kurtz. Any other discussion?
Are those streets that go by your development out there, back to it, are those city streets?
With this action tonight, they will become city streets and city utilities. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
Are they
part of-
currently not city streets?
Well, it's not platted right now. At least this phase that's under consideration tonight isn't platted yet. So at the time of the platting, when you guys officially adopt the approval of this resolution, that's when you take control of the streets and public utilities.
Okay. Because I had a gentleman tell me that the street that you come off Sixth Avenue and turn toward Cardinal Court is not a city, it's not a city street. And I said, I beg to differ, but he was,
The Pines, it should be in the Pines
Yeah.
first edition.
yeah.
I didn't do that plat, but I can check into that for you. I'm fairly certain that it was Lot A of that plat, and Lot A was scheduled to be dedicated.
Cardinal Court, I'm pretty sure they're city streets.
Yeah, that's what I
already
thought too,
been
but
taken care
he was
of.
pretty insistent.
Yeah.
But aren't we talking about the section you're building on now?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the other part we've already approved, so that street's probably ours already. This is the one that goes kind of,
It goes northerly.
Ends up with a cul-de-sac.
Northerly, and
yeah.
there's a cul-de-sac at the end.
Yeah. And we did take this to planning and zoning, and they did recommend its approval of that, too. So we have a motion and a second already? Roll call.
Vaughn,
Would you like us to repeat what you're voting on again, what the motion
That wouldn't be
is?
too bad idea. What are
Okay,
we voting?
You want to read the motion again?
We're voting to accept,
approve a resolution
Yeah, okay.
approving the final
Yes.
plating of the area to be known as Goldfinch Court.
yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
yes.
Shar,
Yes.
O'Loughlin.
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried.
All right,
you.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Brian.
Next thing under new business is a motion to authorize the mayor to endorse Iowa DOT agreement for the PCC pavement replacement project.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Kurtz.
I'll second it.
Second by O'Loughlin. Any other discussion? And I need a roll call.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hayward,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Shar,
Yes.
O'Loughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried. We are down to reports. Dustin's the only department head I see. Am I missing anybody? Dustin, do you have anything you would like to share?
Evening. One thing I wanted to bring up is that we are actually, on October 3rd, between 8 and 9 a.m., we're going to be down at M's, the officers that are working that day for the National Coffee with a Cop Day. So we'll be down there so people can come and visit with us, have coffee, talk, whatever they, carry on a conversation, whatever it is they'd like to talk about. The other thing I'd like to bring up is yesterday I was out with the high school students out at the cemetery cleaning off gravestones, and actually the chemical that was approved to do that actually works out really well. Like 1 to 3:30 or so we were out there cleaning that off. I know they're going to try to go back out there Wednesday morning sometime or afternoon during the day, during the school day there. But we had a good time cleaning off some of the gravestones. Some were hardly readable until after we cleaned them off. You could see it pretty much clear as day. It's not going to make them perfect as they were in the past, but it definitely makes them so they're more legible. And I'm surprised how much this chemical that they used, supposed to be safe, non-toxic, everything actually works help cleaning these off. So it was a good time, though. I really enjoyed out there working with the kids and the school system working on this project. So thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you. I don't think there's any committee reports that we would have for tonight. And some of you went to League of Cities when we do the individual reports. Maybe you can touch base with, learn there what you did. So is there anybody in particular like to start? Going around with?
I can start.
Okay.
I'd like to extend a thank you from Donnelly Auction and Appraisal for use of the barricades on between in front of J&D Body Shop this last week for an auction, and request use this weekend on Sunday between 3rd and 4th Avenues, 3rd and 4th Street Southwest for an auction at home from 12 to 3.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
What do you, Deb?
Yeah, I went to League of Cities. We had a lot of good hourly meetings. Most of them are a little too short for what you did, but it was pretty educational for the ones I went to. And I guess the other thing is, I heard that there was a meeting, about the notices not being sent out with just a few council people present, you, Al, and I just felt that should have been at a committee meeting. We all
I
should have been
did,
invited.
that was just something I responded to an email from John, and that is something that we are putting on the agenda for the meeting of the whole to
Okay,
discuss.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
We took into consideration his concerns, and will be on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Denny?
Nothing.
Okay, John?
I also attended the League of Cities workshop, and there were some really informative presentations done, and one of them was on nuisance properties. And I think that's something that we have a big opportunity here in our city to address. So I'm going to continue assisting in that process.
Bring back some good information for us to share? Okay,
I did.
great, thank you. Anything else? Mike?
I don't think I have anything.
Okay.
I'll chime in for once. With respect to nuisance properties, just be aware that we're a resource. We do a lot of nuisance properties, from abandoned to your run-of-the-mill junk and things like that. So, and we're working on one with the chief right now. But just know that.
And you'll be pleased to know they said, be sure and consult your city attorney.
Well, there you go.
You're glad to hear that, right? Anything else?
Thank you.
No, that's something we, occasionally present on as well. So I just wanted to let you know you have the resource.
Great, thank you. Bob?
Yeah, no, I thought the group that went to the League of Cities meeting, we all did a good job attending meetings, and it was always interesting to hear other cities. Sometimes we get caught up in our problems, and we think we're the only community that has problems, and everybody is battling a lot of the same things that we are. So it's nice to share ideas and just find out you're not the only one out there. One other thing, I had asked Al to do some checking on maybe bringing the civility class to Independence, and just wondered if anybody was interested enough to have him contact the school and the county to see if they might be interested in participating and sharing the costs, or we can bring that up at the next workshop too. It's nothing that has to be done immediately, but just kind of a thought on it. And that's, it was interesting. One of the big things I think all of us got a lot out of was we attended a generational meeting. The first meeting on Wednesday was about, 3 hours long? But it really was a lot of information just on how people get along. And part of the reason they don't get along is we don't understand each other. We don't get to know each other. And that's part of what the civility class talked about too, was getting to know people beyond the one or two issues that you don't agree with. So, but anyway, we can bring that up at the workshop.
Put that on the agenda also.
Does anybody plan on going to this?
I was gonna bring that up to see whether,
Okay, wait.
anything else, Bob?
No, I'm done.
Carl?
Well, I want to add, I've been to a lot of those, and this one was really good. It was quite a ways out there. But that class that Bob just talked about, I thought that was really good. And one of the key points that we all miss is communication. And some of the younger ones, it was kind of funny how it was set up. The way they did it was really good, though. I thought it was really good training. And down the road, I'd like to see some of those classes, and I know it puts your schedule all out. Some of those classes need to be about 90 minutes. They have a hard time getting it in 60, but they really did a good job, I thought. And some of them, 60 does cover it. I don't mean it that way, but some of them, if they just a little bit longer. But I know it throws your schedule all off. But otherwise, it was really good. And I seen the group there that Dustin was talking about at the cemetery was on the local news. And I didn't hear the one sponsor, but one of the sponsors that helped with the chemicals and stuff was Vern's True Value. I'd like to thank them. But, and there's someone else, I'm not sure the other one was, I missed who the other one was, but I want to send a thank you out to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Tina?
The only thing I want to share is in 2017, July of 2017, I finished all my schooling so that I could apply for my certification through the state as a city clerk. They require that you be a clerk for 3 years, and as of September 14th, I reached that 3-year mark, so I have submitted my application for certification through the state. I'll let you know, I should get it, but we'll see if they find anything wrong. But
So you haven't got the results back
no,
yet.
we're just sending it in.
That's when we get
so.
to applaud, when you
Yeah.
actually receive the certificate.
Yeah,
huh?
they have a whole committee that reviews your application, so
Okay.
I'll let you know when I find out.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of things. One of them is October 31st is Halloween, and the chamber is going to be doing their downtown trick-or-treating from 4:30 to 5:30, correct? Am I correct? Don't just smile. I'm looking at the chamber director back there, if nobody's seen. I got on my notes, you're doing it 4:30 to 5:30, and then we'll be doing it within the city until 7 o'clock, from 5:30 to 7. So, on the 31st of October, Halloween. With what Deb did bring up, I think this was put on your desk last time or something in a letter from John Danos. And there's a training that the girls from here at the City Hall are going to be going to, and they'll be down there for 3 days, so it'll be separate. But part of that training is on TIF from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. on October 17th, I believe. We do need to let them have a head count by the 15th, so any of you that are interested in going will have to.
He did a presentation down there at League of Cities, and it was very good.
Oh, was he there during the, okay,
Yes.
great. Yeah, he's a good speaker. We had him one time out here at Okoboji Grill.
Very good
And
at
we had
answering
people-
questions.
It was open to the whole city, and so we had all kinds of business people and bankers and everybody there.
I'd be interested in going.
He is able to explain it more on a lower level. You don't have to be an attorney to understand it, so he does an excellent job. My other thing is, we do have our new thing tonight with our streaming or whatever it is called that we're doing. If anybody out there has had, I would like to have you send me some emails to mayor@indytel.com. Let me know whether your sound was good, whether there was any problems, any concerns. Nice to get a good note to say that you appreciate it, that we did get something good for a change. So I would love to have that feedback if anybody out there that's watching it has, and let us know. And I keep trying to talk louder. If I'm still not doing it, let me know, and I'll learn to yell if I have to. And on that note, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Scharf,
Second.
second by Kurtz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Now, do you have to turn that switch back off, or are they doing that?
One of your
back
major
there?
problems.
Frank come in front of me afterwards, and he says,